Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is August 28, 2024. I want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast, I'm Probably Wrong About Everything. Also want to thank the Ann Arbor Film Festival, who turned me on to Allison Leigh Holt, our guest today. Where in the heck you calling in from, Allison?
Troy, New York, in
Oh,
the upper Hudson Valley.
how cool is that? The first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
What's the best thing for a human being?
Yeah.
Oh, raspberries this morning.
Oh, I like that. I never get that. I had
This
some
morning,
yesterday.
yeah,
Yeah.
this morning, the best thing for this human so far has been raspberries out of my backyard, which I'm just, I'm very lucky.
That's
But the best thing for human beings is liberation.
oh
Can we
wow.
all agree?
I like that word. I like both the words. I'm in my backyard too, and I'm always striving to be liberated. So, what's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
Mm. Um, I like everything so far. I have few complaints except for fluorescent lights,
Yeah,
and probably social media. Not a huge fan of information coming in through systems like that are kind of like a rigged game.
yeah,
I'm not really into those rigged games, um, but yeah, it's an interesting question because it depends on how you define information, and I define information in a super broad sense, um, in terms of all of the things that are being communicated between living and machine systems,
yeah,
right? So, from a super broad sense, uh, I mean, you have to begin by defining it a little further if you wanted to have, like
yeah,
a more clear conversation about that. But that's my way of thinking about information, um, and bodily reception is awesome, and it changes as you become more attuned to different, you know, kinds of information.
yeah. No, you answered it well. I loved everything is great because this is in our environment. Craig Baldwin. I said, "What's your favorite form of information?" He said, "A hug," or he said, "Human touch." And
Mm.
Ann Magnuson said, "A hug." So you touched on that. It could be. We don't think of the hugs as being information, but
Oh,
people usually say
yeah,
books or whatever. But I loved rigged game. That is really, it's a rigged game.
it's rigged. The
Okay, so
algorithm is rigged, no matter how you slice it. Yeah,
why do you think humans collect or gather information?
we can't help it. We're doing it
Yeah,
whether we want to or not. You know, a person who's I don't know, incapable of using speech is still receiving information. We're exchanging it myriad ways all the time.
yeah.
There's
So
not
you're
enough.
saying we're hardwired. It's innate to collect information.
I'm saying that there are ways that we receive information that we're not even aware of
Yeah. Okay.
because of the ways we um, are. We're expected to the sort of systems that we exist with and expect us to behave a certain way, um, in order to support them, and that means the diminishment of what we are. We're living on other people's time. Like I'm living on my university's time,
Yeah.
right? I'm very lucky to be in my program, and I'm in a second year of a PhD program at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. So there's many things to be said about that, but the time part, as the school year approached, I had this like little kid feeling like, don't make me go. I don't want to go. You know, like I don't that feeling of like I hate it. I want to just stay like wake up when I feel like I want to wake up. You know what I mean? It's as we deserve that. That's what I want my life to be like.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to write it into my my PhD. Like, how can I write it in such a way that I have to be like, you know, free until 10 o'clock in the morning? Like, no, nothing until 10.
Yeah, no, I loved your talk on YouTube where you say I have to daydream for an hour in the morning. That is beautiful.
Oh,
Really,
you did some homework. Thanks.
yeah, but really well put. But it's also, you touched on one of Marshall McLuhan's favorite jokes, which is told to me by a woman who advised McLuhan on Gaia principle and feminism. And it's the kid is in bed and the mom comes in and says, you've got to get up and go to school. And he goes, I don't wanna. She goes, you gotta go. And he goes, why? She goes, because you're the principal.
That's how I feel. Yeah.
But it is back to that question. I'll just ask it. Is this need or want to collect information more innate or more invented by humans?
Well, again, I don't think that we have very much of a choice. It's happening whether we like even develop barriers against it.
Yeah.
I think it's still happening. And it actually takes effort to not heed it or listen to it. It takes effort, and that's stress and trauma, you know?
Yeah.
So those are things that's where my head immediately goes. And and the other, like, what we do with it is up to us. And, you know, I don't think that we invent that, you know, the things that we do with information. And again, I'm going to throw it back to you. What do you consider information? Can you define what your terms are here for this question?
No, that's fine. Lily Tomlin says reality is just a collective hunch. So collectively as humans, we kind of go, well, information is data coming into us. So whether it's a hug or reading a newspaper, of course, it's really broad. T.S. Eliot said, when I talk to you, I've got to use words. Well, you don't have to, but words work pretty good. And that's the main medium we're working in right now. Besides eye contact, we're working with words. So we kind of go along, we kind of know. But, you know, I one thing you just said might help suss it out. It's like turns into stress or trauma, and it's how we deal with that. That's like Buster Keaton. He turned a stumble into a dance. So you can turn the stress or trauma into a strength, but it's not easy. It's like, again, how do you some movie star said, I survive on my stress. You know, she wants it. So, again, I'm not promoting people having stress. I'm like, hey, chill out and sit in your backyard and eat raspberries. That's what I'm about, you know. So, you know, let's go on, because the next question's perfect follow-up is, do thoughts create emotions?
Yes, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you may have an emotion from a smell, you know, creating a thought.
Yeah.
It is. So I guess this is like back a little bit to the ways in which we define information. If we're regarding things from this like very, very fluid perspective, you know, relaxing the definitions that we are, well, I hate it actually when people use the term we when they're talking about stuff like this. If I am looking at the world from a very fluid place, which I do, I I don't like I accept that the wall is there. I'm not going to try to like merge
Yeah.
with it and get on the other side, right? Like I accept that
Yeah.
things are hard, stones are hard, water is wet, objects fall to earth from the force of gravity. So, and at the same time as I like gather the raspberries in the morning, I'm thinking of that raspberry bush as like a living entity that is doing a job, and I'm like talking to the raspberry bush as I do it because I want to know if it's helping the raspberry bush out that I'm picking the raspberries. And I'm telling it that it's, I just moved into this place. I'm very lucky to finally find a freaking sane place to live. But this year, when the raspberry bush is finished giving raspberries, I'm going to cut it back because I'm a gardener. And I'm telling it that I'm going to care for it because thank you, you know? So this is just an example of like considering that the shit around you is alive, you know?
Yeah.
It's not. And if you have that perspective, then you're in conversation with everything all the time.
Yeah.
And what a terrible life to live thinking that everything around you is dead. You know, it's just, there have been moments in my life where I've had to do that. And I think I was a very depressed person, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, did I have to do it? I did it. I am not of that mind now, and it's not my nature. So yeah, that's how I go about things, as if everything is alive. And, you know, not everything is sacred, but there's some sacred shit too. And, you know, I better be in right relationship with that stuff.
Yeah.
So hopefully my art is like, I don't know, a way of living and knowing that supports all of that, and, you know, helps other people.
You really get what I'm after, Allison. I really appreciate it, because we call that a living organism. That's when you read Finnegan's Wake out loud with a group of people. It's a living organism. It's not a reading club, but you know, that's metaphoric or literal. But two things came to mind when you said Gumby, the animation from years ago. He walked through walls. So
Yeah.
you know, the guy who created it, he was taking acid, but we were just watching it as a TV show for kids animation. It's like Ren and Stimpy was like, this shit is like kids on acid. But the parents were like, oh, I will watch the cartoons with my kid on Saturday morning. And then he might turn to his son and says, son, this is what I did in college, taking acid. But he didn't. You don't have to have hallucinogenics to hallucinate. You can watch a cartoon. But also, the Museum of Jurassic Technology right down the street from me is a fake museum. But you know, the guys won a Guggenheim, and it's
It's a museum.
It is a real museum, but it has stuff in it that some cultures might deem as fake, because one of the exhibits is a bat, you know, a model of a bat that flies through walls in South America. So
Yes.
we go, that it doesn't do that, but they want to say that or whatever. So I like that you said, I'm not going to walk through that wall, but in essence,
I struggle with not being able to walk through the wall.
right.
I do. I am one of those people that is like, it's a bummer to not be able to just teleport to the place. Like, I actually really do have a hard time with some.
Well, I think your presentation in Ann Arbor helped me walk through a wall, so all the power to you.
Oh.
So then, Allison, fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I.
Gosh, I don't know what I think until I think it. I mean, I don't know.
Well, no, I
guess I'm not very good at answering those kinds of questions.
That's all right. That's fine. I get that answer often.
Oh.
McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it. And Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. So
Yeah.
that's all right. Let's move
Thank
on.
God I'm not somebody who knows what they think until they say it. That would be a messy Allison, I think.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Can humans think without language?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Babies are human.
Yep.
Are they not?
Yes. Yeah. And Chomsky says the language is not just words, it's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks?
Oh, revolt. You fuck up the language. You fuck up the language. This is what Dada was all about. Dada was about language. A lot of people are confused about Dada, you know,
Yeah.
especially young people. They're like, oh, that was the art movement that was about silly things and making things that, you know, don't mean anything. And I was like, just let's look at it again, kids, because Dada was very clear about the ways in which language put ideas in boxes and the ways language is appropriated, misappropriated, wielded, weaponized, and that's where collage comes from.
Really good.
Let's break it up.
Yeah, no, revolt, that word was just, you're a wordsmith. You're like resonating what's in my inner brain that wants to come out. Because that revolt word is good, because Anemic Cinema, the film made by Duchamp, was about fucking up language. And it was like, hey, you're going to stare at a movie and I'm going to fuck up language. And wow, that was really well done. So your observations of humans in general, are we more feeling beings or more thinking beings?
Well, gosh, it depends on our environment.
Yeah.
Because your environment, if you are in like a very stressful situation for a long period of time, you may be forced to be thinking quite a lot, you know? I mean, those emotions may not serve you quite as much, you know?
Yeah.
I think that it's very contingent on your circumstances. And this is, again, we are fluid things, not a fixed thing here, you know?
No, you get it, because see, when I ask these at the beginning, these philosophical questions, is it more this or more that? This one woman goes, the word more doesn't function in your question, because she thinks I'm asking, or people think I'm asking, is it this or is it that? And I'm not. I'm really saying, here's a prompt. Just go for it. Like there's something that you said in your talk after your art piece on YouTube. You go, did I answer the question? I'm not after for people to answer the question. They can go off on stories, tangents, anecdotes. They don't have to. I like if they kind of do, but it's not, that's all right. Because the two things about, are we more feeling or more thinking? Bridget Bardot says, when I make love, I don't think. And I'm like, good luck. How do you turn your brain off when you're doing something? It's like, no, that's people who meditate go, okay, I'm going to think about not thinking. And then there's on my street, there's a car with a bumper sticker that says, don't believe everything you think. And I'm like, well, it could be, don't believe everything you feel.
Yes, absolutely. It could. Because, and you know, this is a little back to the trauma thing. And to be clear, I think that everyone on the planet has trauma.
Sure.
Just from the fact of being human, but also having gone through a global pandemic, I think that we all are, you know, still carrying that experience with us, and the struggle to, you know, reconcile all of the changes that that it brought and forced us into. So oh shoot, I lost my train of thought just a little bit. Oh, the whole thing about trauma is that you're carrying with you responses from something that happened in your past rather than meeting the present moment like a baby, you know. And that's kind of what is, you know, referred to in the Bible about, you know, looking at the world through seeing through a glass darkly.
Yeah.
That is carrying this past experience and allowing that to inform your experience in the present moment.
Yeah.
And we all do that, but we, you know, it's I think that it's up to me to do the work to clear that up as much as possible, you know.
Yeah, you're really touching on Wyndham Lewis saying artists live in the present and write a detailed history of the future. That's because all times are happening now.
That's a nice quote.
That's an amazing thing for him. You know, he's the guy who invented prank phone.
Who's that?
Wyndham Lewis. He's treated as a
Wyndham
fascist.
Lewis.
He's a graphic artist, and he invented prank phone calls. And
awesome.
he
invented prank phone calls. I'm so
yeah,
sure.
whatever. But he's like a James Joyce's nemesis, and he the other thing he invented was multiple font designs in one book. Like books all have the same font. He says, forget that. Let's have different fonts.
Really? What about who's this person that was tight with Duchamp back in the day? Maybe he was just messing around with type.
Yeah. Well, you know who it's like. Actually, in Ann Arbor, I asked this big hotshot music professor, who did this first? He goes, I'm not into first. I don't care. I'm not saying that the information I'm saying is documented with every footnote that it is the first. I like to say shit that it sounds like I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And then they go, well, I want to challenge. I says, good, go ask Chatbox who invented multiple
Yeah.
And they say somebody that I'm not going to say. I'm going to hold to
Guillaume Apollinaire. That's who I was thinking of.
Yeah, Apollinaire could have. He was right there. That's the thing we figured out. In fact, you're in expanded cinema. My big thing is I have an essay I'll send you is who invented live cinema. Because I think it's, you know, it goes, it could be the Benchies, you know, in Japan, they're standing in front of the screen talking. It could be Buñuel in the late 20s, early 30s, Land Without Bread. He would stand next to the movie screen and talk like a men's club travelogue. And then, you know, what's that guy's name? Winsor McKay and Greer the Dinosaur. So I'm always looking for who invented. And then, you know, you believe Herzog's documentary on cave art, you'll go, well,
I was just gonna say that's
the cave artists invented, but they didn't. That was not a projector.
No, but what is projected is light onto smoke, and the you know, shadow play feels like very OG. Expanded.
It is. That's shadow. I believe that, but it's also just the word you brought up earlier, social media. I says, well, when we invented words, that's social media, but it isn't, because they define social media as electricity's involved. So social media actually started with the telegraph.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, all language is metaphorical. But then sometimes we put it in literal terms because we think we want to define history. So here's Allison, here's two questions talking about the past from Turing in the 50s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
Probably. Is thinking a function of the soul? I mean, whose soul? Maybe we're in communication with other souls all the time also. That's also what how I like to live. And I wonder sometimes how we receive information from other souls who may not be incarnate, in meat at the moment. I feel like the communications that I get from other souls are kind of like charades in a way.
Oh yeah,
There's like a physical sensation that comes from dialogue, or just kind of like opening the space to be in dialogue, and it's not necessary to have words so much, but sensations come in and confirmation comes in. And then, I mean, of course, when you are, I happen to think that when you are like having an intuition about something, it is this that's happening. And you know that you've got a posse around you all the time that's helping you, whether you acknowledge them or not. So I choose to acknowledge them and, you know, give thanks too, because I don't think I would have made it past 50. I think it's still quite remarkable to make it past 50. And yeah, so, you know, I think that they may be talking to you through me right now, you know? Yeah.
No, that's good. You're a channel. In fact, I love the word charades. That is so good in pantomime, miming. But I have to ask you if you've ever read, and if you haven't, check this book out called Haunted Media by Jeffrey Scholar.
No, I love Jeffrey.
You've got to. It is so funny because here's one example. In 1953, a guy in New York shot his TV with a shotgun because he thought they were talking to him. And his wife called the cops, and the cops show up and they go, "There's nothing wrong with shooting your TV." It's like, dude, the gun could have gone through the wall and killed your neighbor. But it's just, there's all these examples, and it comes from, you know, those two sisters who kind of been scammed people with seances.
Yeah.
They would hold hands and then they go, "Okay, your aunt is in the room," and they would literally crack their toes because that made a sound that no one could see the sound being made. And they go, "See, they're here." But that doesn't mean we can't be in touch. My friend was married for 75 years to her husband. I mean, they were really close. When he died, I said, you know, a month later, I didn't bug her right away. I said, "Selma, did Alfred appear to you in any way after you died? I know it sounds kooky. I'm just curious." She goes, "Yeah. The day after he died, his coffee cup just went, it just broke."
Game over.
That could be total coincidence with the temperature and the ceramics, blah, blah, blah. But still, if she observed that and thought, "Oh, maybe that was his way of saying later."
Jerry, do you know about the film Dreams and Apparitions of Mark Lepore?
No, I should look it up. Yeah, tell me about it.
Well, it's a great piece by Saul, who I was at Mass Art. I was one of the last people to talk to Mark Lepore before he committed suicide. I was in grad school at that time. We talked about Fulbrights because I was about to apply for Fulbright. I went to Indonesia. And in this film, he uses a tube camera. He uses this beautiful, like, you know how tube cameras have that great ghosty quality. So he uses a tube camera and he sets it up, and, you know, not dissimilar to your style. He has folks in the mass art film community sit and talk about their dreams and apparitions of Mark Lepore. And it's quite lovely. I'm in it and I talk way too much, but yeah, I just think that Saul does not edit, you know, he sets it up and just lets people talk, and they finish when they finish. So
No, I'll look into that. It's beautiful. And the second Turing question, Allison, is, can machines think?
yes, I do believe machines can think. They are thinking.
Yeah.
Yes, they are doing things that we don't predict all the time. Yes, they think.
Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Um, Gosh, I guess more and more happiness. Uh, but it would be more like contentedness than
Yeah.
happiness in that Buddhist vein, right?
Yeah.
Because happiness is very attached to desire. And I like my desires come from all kinds of things that are attached to the traumas and shit like that, right?
Yeah.
So I prefer to wean myself off of that and to be I am training myself to be more contented all the time.
I like that. The frame word is so important. And I like, see, it's me and you versus the wording on the question. We're psychoanalyzing the wording. So I like when people change. You know, people often change that word. Do you more pursue happiness or meaning? They go, well, I pursue joy. And then sometimes they change the verb and they go, oh, I don't like the verb pursue. Or, you know, they says there's a better verb for me to explain this. So I like you put contentment. I've had that. I've had people change it to contentment because I got it from Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. He says happiness doesn't tend to last and meaning tends to last.
Yeah, but
that,
meaning is kind of the icing on the cake. You
yeah,
know?
there you go.
There's
Yeah,
a lot of stuff that's just happening. Like
yeah,
there's not always a meaning behind stuff, you know?
yeah,
So shit is happening all the time
yeah.
for often things you'll never be able to explain.
Yeah.
And you just don't get to know.
Thank
So
God.
be content with the
Yeah.
fact that you
But
may never
I'm
know.
content. I'm content with like everything you know is wrong. To how do you unlearn things? Because it's you know, we can learn things, but how do you unlearn them? So
Oh, is that a question?
no, but go ahead. Yeah, answer it.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm having to unlearn stuff that physically. So you can learn things from anything.
Yeah.
And I recently broke my wrist. When I saw you at Ann Arbor, I had a cast on, and I no longer do, and I can do all kinds of things that I couldn't do then. I had just had my first surgery, and it is shocking how quickly your muscles atrophy. It takes like 2 weeks for you to lose tons of muscle mass, which is proof that everything that you do on the day to day is maintaining the form that you're in. The form that you're in is just because of the way you live, you know?
Yeah.
So all you got to do is put a cast on for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, and your muscles turn to jelly, and you got to do a shit ton of work to get that stuff back. So this is like, but again, for a while, my body had to stop moving in order to weave itself back together. And then it has to relearn how to restore the same habits that it used to have, like we want to get back to that, but it takes a lot of work. So I have to act the physical. Your body can teach you a lot, like I'm learning a lot just through this experience of a very mundane break. I'm very lucky. This is my first real break and my first surgery, free and clear of like whatever wisdom teeth being taken out, which is, nothing to sneeze at. But just consciously going through the healing process and listening to my body as I do that is like a huge education. It's enormous. And it's reminding me that I am the original source of knowledge. My body knows how to weave nerve and bone back together. And if I am my body, then I know how to weave nerve and bone back together. Original source of knowledge right here.
Yeah.
You know?
It's really good. You're really teaching me a lot. You're a wordsmith and you're concise, and I really appreciate how you're teaching me this stuff. This is good. So does the
That's
brain?
part of a new expanded cinema piece, actually.
Is it? Yeah, really.
Yeah.
It's the snake eating its tail. It's a Mobius strip. It's actually, the best wording is center without margins. It's like, so does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? So is the consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
Well, your brain is only one detecting organism, and like we're still learning a lot about the brain, about the gut, right? And calling the gut the second brain.
Yeah.
The inverse is also a little bit true. I just learned that our brains can digest fats more efficiently. I'm just beginning to wrap my mind around the ketogenic diet. I'm a neurodivergent person, and a lot of people think about the ketogenic diet as something that's just going to help you like lose weight fast or whatever. It was developed for epileptic children.
Really?
In the 30s. Yeah, because carbohydrates, we process them differently than we do fats. And the ketogenic diet is all about just tipping your body into ketosis so that you're burning fat instead of carbs more readily. You're training your body to do that. But
wait,
the reason...
Can you spell keto? Is it keto, K-E-T-O?
K-E-T-O. Yep.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's super popular. You're going to find stuff in the grocery store that's like keto friendly,
Oh, yeah,
like,
no.
So, but the purpose of it, the original purpose of it was to help with epilepsy in children that we still don't understand very much about what's actually happening with epilepsy, and furthermore, the brain. So like we're like, a few inches down this vast road of understanding what the brain is. And our, like sensing and knowing and thinking is happening in so many different ways that we're like, I guess, being so concerned about the brain. I mean, it's important, and we need to know, need to study that. But at the same time, there's just so much happening with our bodies. Our minds are not, just in our brains.
That's
a wandering answer, but
no, that's good because it also touches on Tony Conrad's film, The Flicker, is a strobe film, and he didn't realize he was forced to put a warning on at the beginning. And I've made flicker films over the years, and I showed one once, and I didn't realize that I should tell the audience first. If you're an epileptic, please close your eyes or have a warning. In every film I ever make, I put a warning.
Not even epileptic. I mean, I've worked with autistic folks for over a decade, and I've shown them films. Like, I was like, oh, Jody Mack gave me this copy of her work, this portfolio. I'm just going to show some of the kids her work and like Scott Stark's stuff. I'm like, made a little, viewing session for them. And they were like, what are you trying to do to us? It's a very physical thing for them, but this is also a proof of the power of cinema. I also would take them regularly to the Exploratorium and have workshops with Sam and Kathleen there and Kim. So same thing there though. Like they really the second and third time, or maybe just the second time that we went there, they had to spend a little bit more time making sure that they weren't going to use any flicker in there. It's a hard thing when you're, thinking about cinema history, expanded cinema history. It's a lot of flicker. That film by Tony Conrad is like,
Well, I hope you saw the Tony Conrad documentary. Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
You got to see it. It's really well done. Tyler Harper. But Beck, then I showed a flicker film once and didn't make the announcement, and a kid had an epileptic fit, and I was like, that was the best way to teach me. Like, dude, you have to.
Yep.
But that's funny because you're talking about the Exploratorium in San Francisco, right?
I am.
Yeah, because I saw Frank Zappa give a lecture there once that changed my life.
Wow.
And also Jordan Belson kind of developed the whole technique that spawned 2001. Kubrick admits he got it from Jordan Belson. Exploratorium is an amazing. That's like all what do you call those things? With the dome and you study the stars. Exploratorium.
Oh, planetarium.
The planetariums. They're amazing.
Yeah.
Whoever invented that. So, what's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
I don't know. I don't know that much about the speed of light. I'd have to do some research.
Okay, so here's the poet. That's great. Here's the poet Audre Lorde. You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Then Yvonne Rainer, her colleague, responded, says, oh no, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
If you expose the tools, I'm not sure they give a fuck. I mean, really.
You're a good listener, Allison, because usually people don't listen. I mean, basically what I'm saying is, what tool do you gravitate towards? If you want to apply it to, if you want to add the word
poetry.
New, that's good. If you want to add the word new, that's fine. If you want to add in dismantling the master's house, that's fine. But
no, I trust Audre. Sorry.
Say it again.
I trust Audre Lorde.
Yeah.
And
I do too.
I dig Yvonne Rainer too, but I'm skeptical on her take there. I think we can see with our eyes how much the master cares about its tools being exposed.
Well, you nailed Gary Snyder, the beat nature poet. He says, because when you said poetry, I was really amazed. He said, the role of poet is to see the world without language and then put that seeing into language.
Yeah, translate.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. What new toy do you suggest?
For what?
Well, the same thing. It's like I was asking people for years, what tool do they suggest? And then someone said, well, what about a toy? So I says, I'll add that to my question. So you can put it into the context you want.
Okay. I'm trying to think of stuff that is new to me now. I'm learning Houdini, and I really like Houdini. To be literal.
What is Houdini?
Houdini is a VFX tool. It's node-based animation.
Yeah.
And I'm using it to extend some of the motifs that you saw in the film that I presented at Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
And at the Exploratorium, Stitching the Future with Clues. There's one of the things that I really want people to come away with from that film is the kind of like emergent particle cloud that I'm visualizing between agents in dialogue. So I'm actually using those points, those dots that are moving to describe, if you and I were sitting across from each other, the information that we're sensing and processing and exchanging all the time, right? Yeah. So that has its own body, its own wants and desires, and it's in space between us. And in order to make that really explicit, I'm using Houdini to make those particles. Those particles are now like a glass sphere of water that refracts light. It reflects the room around it. So it's a murmuration of glass spheres filled with water moving between two people in dialogue. And this should be an AR project so that if you hold up your device, you'll be able to actually see it between two people who are talking.
Yeah.
So it's this murmuration flowing back and forth between agents and dialogue, just bringing attention to the fact that there is information being sensed, processed, and exchanged between both people.
Wow.
That's a tool. Houdini is a new tool for me, and I dig it because node-based animation is also very philosophical. The way you go about using that kind of program, you have a tool that you can dive inside of, and it opens up another universe, and inside there you can kind of like train that tool. You know, it's a fractal kind of way of working, and I really like it a lot. It's complicated, but I like it a lot. And other programs like Touch Designer, which is used primarily for live video VJing, but super powerful, is also node-based. And I'm interested in using Touch Designer for live stuff. So
really good. So, but I heard you say, to clarify, AR, I know VR is virtual reality. What's AR?
Oh, AR, augmented reality.
Oh, augmented.
Yeah, you don't need to wear a headset. I mean, thanks for picking up on that. So if you hold up your iPhone in space, just like, you know, say in an art gallery, and one of the art pieces has been developed using AR, if you hold up your phone and your phone has the program to view, you know, this project, then you will see the physical situation, but you will also see a digital manifestation of something else.
Yeah.
So the artist has told the phone, like, you know, this object that you're holding your phone in front of is a trigger to show this animation or object or whatever. And that is, for me, it's kind of a better tool for suggesting ideas, because it's keeping you in your body and in your environment and suggesting that there's a lot of stuff happening here, a lot of stuff happening here that we don't have the senses to perceive, you know, and bringing an opportunity for you to see that thing, you know. I mean, of course it's generated. It's something that the artist had to create, but, you know, it helps you think about things. That's how I want to use it.
Yeah, it's really good. You really taught me well. I like that. Okay, so now what do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
I don't worry so much when I go to bed anymore.
Good.
I might worry in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm worried all the time about Palestine, all the time. I'm crying every day. Still, it's been 11 months, almost a year, you know? I'm still a freaking mess over Palestine because it's my country that's doing that, you know? I'm funding that stuff. I haven't paid my taxes yet. It's a note to self. I haven't paid my taxes yet, but I couldn't do it. In April. I just couldn't do it. I don't know how to do it now. That's what I worry about. I worry about that. I worry about the Congo. I mean, the you know, showing the tools really doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter because the rapaciousness of capitalism settler colonialism. It just doesn't care about anything. It doesn't care about you or me, anybody, you know. So this is, it's so well veiled and so well crafted, you know. Poetry has been used to cloak that stuff.
Yeah.
And my worry, I guess, is, like you ask about new tools. I mean, it is a very tricky question. What kind of tool is gonna fucking get through to white people? You know, what kind of tool is gonna work? I mean, it definitely is an artistic thing. Oh, yeah. It will have to be an artistic thing, but it's got to be some powerful, brave artists. And I mean, this is why artists don't make money. This is why we live in shitty situations, you know. This is why, like, I lost all of my belongings to a mold infestation 3 years ago, almost exactly 3 years ago. And it took me offline for like a long time. You're not going to be making stuff, you know, you're not going to be maintaining opportunities. You're going to lose community. You're going to have to, like, I identify with Palestinians. I don't know what it's like to have bombs dropping outside. I don't know what it's like to see people, you know, unalived and amputated without anesthesia and stuff. I don't know that, but I know parts of that experience. And I very, very strongly want for my work to be a new tool, you know, very strongly. And it's like, it's a heavy lift, but at the same time, that's the life we should be living. That's my opinion, you know.
Yeah, Allison, that's really powerful words, and I appreciate that. And you anticipated the next question beautifully. You must have ESP. McLuhan learned from a poet that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions. Mm-hmm. So we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about the inventions. So I ask you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Because you're going to not be able to pay rent, man.
Really well, practical answer.
I'm not joking.
Yeah, I know.
Big motivator. You know? That's the motivation. Yeah. We're going to hold this over your head. It's a freaking, like, extortion. That's what this whole game is about. You know?
It is.
It is. It's extortive. So, you know, that leads to all kinds of, that's why we need law. I mean, the kind of law we've got, it's not real law, you know? It's not about being a good person, right? Or like giving a shit about anybody. That's not what the law is about.
Yeah.
It's not making sure you behave better, for sure.
Well, here's a follow-up, because I'm going to interject this other one. First of all, I'll ask you, do artists have moral obligation?
Well, I do. I mean, yes, I think so.
Yeah.
But again, it's like, how much have you given yourself over to the machine?
Yeah.
There are plenty of artists that are like, you know, whatever, Leni Riefenstahl, right? Like, she's a great filmmaker.
Yeah.
She's a fucking tool.
Yeah. But you say, there's an amazing thing there. That's exactly what a Hollywood director I interviewed yesterday said, the exact same thing.
Oh, really?
I mean, well, bringing up Leni Riefenstahl.
Yeah, well,
you ever see that?
She's a great punching bag right now.
Yeah. Did you ever see that documentary on her where it's really a great doc, and she turns to the cameraman at one point and says, "Dude, you should be shooting at this angle." She starts directing the film about her life. But McLuhan said that technology is the most human thing, that putting anything in between two humans whether it's spoken word, printed word, gesture, ESP, or even like Jean Rouge said, when I put a camera between me and you, it's more real than with no camera. Now that sounds sort of kooky, but I mean, basically, this is a question.
Okay, can I say something about that? Okay,
yeah,
because I work with autistic folks, and I think that media art is very special. It's a very special tool with those guys. It works some interesting magic with them, and to a degree, I would agree. I think to a degree. So one of the things that is special for autistic folks with film, and particularly making film, that attracts them, is that the camera, the camera doesn't judge. It doesn't judge. It's not something that's going to tell them that they're doing it wrong. You know, it's in that sense, it is kind of a best friend, because it is just not going to judge you, and you can imagine, you can be anything, you know, when that's always true. It's always true. It's how much weight I give to what I think of Jerry Fialka, you know, the answer that I give, you know, like that's going to determine what I say, how much I care about you, like, you know.
No, I appreciate this. It's really good. It's bare bones. This is exactly what I'm after 40 years of interviewing, is where people talk deeper than their stock lines.
I don't
know, and I appreciate this, but here's the specific that I wanted to go into for a second, was when they started saying, well, we want to require cameras on all cops going all the time. I'm like, no, I know that that's probably the better plan, but in the long run, what you're doing is saying you want people, and this is William Blake said, we become what we behold. So Lenny Bruce says you can call cops 3 things: cops, pigs, or peace officers. Well, why not call them peace officers? Because that's what you want them to do. So we become what we behold. But then cops don't always act right. So you put a camera on them, then they're going to act humane because that's the humane thing to do.
No,
or they're going to not act humane because they can just tilt the camera a different way, or say it's not working and say, well, the camera's big brother and it's making me act humane. We want them to act humane because that's a humane thing to do.
I think just getting rid of the cops is a better solution.
Right. I know that, but I'm saying that we haven't done that yet. But I'm just saying, if it's the issue, if you had a vote on your city, cops have to have cameras or cops don't, how would you vote?
Oh, cameras, please. Cameras, please. Yeah. First of all, they've been like, there's something wrong with them wanting to be a cop in the first place. But if there's like, so recently, I'm trying to remember who it was, like, who was beat to death by cops. But the only thing that they would have gotten away with it if there wasn't a camera on a lamppost.
Wow.
There was a camera on a pole nearby that captured them beating him like a rag doll. Right? And I don't think that there's a remedy for police and anything that's going to be a deterrent like that. I'm for it. I don't think that that's the way to solve things. But if somebody has it in their mind that it's okay under certain circumstances to beat the shit out of someone or kill someone, then yes, they need all kinds of cameras on them. You know, they're the ones that should be restrained. So, you know, if it's a requirement to have a camera on and you don't have that camera on, then that should automatically, like, you know, disqualify you. Why'd you turn the camera off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good, Allison. I calculate we have 4 more minutes. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so let's go with this one. Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
I don't know. I think that there are plenty of really awesome old ideas. And actually, that has to do with time. That question has to do with time and what you consider old and new.
Yeah.
And, and what you consider time, because I'm somebody that does not really buy into linear time. It's the struggle with going to a PhD program, particularly at a polytechnic that is like weaponizing the US, yeah, that is like, there are plenty of traditional ways of knowing that could very well serve modern day. I think that they matter deeply because, like, even the film Faust, like Murnau's Faust.
Yeah.
I saw that film in the Castro in San Francisco, and I happened to have eaten a little bit of special chocolate. And that was a crazy experience for me. I've seen Faust many, many times, but it was a brand new print, or a restored print. And I think it was Black Cat Orchestra playing.
Yeah.
I had the most incredible conversation with myself about humanity, because the people in that film, you couldn't make it today because people couldn't do that kind of acting,
Yeah.
The kind of expression and energy that's being wielded in that film. And that's just 100 years ago, right? So traditional knowledge is bringing what and like ritual and knowledge, like action from the past. Humans were different things then. And by doing some of those things now, bringing some of those rituals and ways of knowing into the present, it helps us be more of what we're able to be.
Yeah.
We still have it all.
To be more present and live in the moment, you mean?
Well, to actually imagine that you have many forms. You have many forms. You're receiving knowledge on many levels. If you were living on another planet that could somehow sustain your life, but had like different compounds or something, your body would change. You would still be you, and you would take a different form. So the conditions that we're in right now really are the things that keep us in the form that we're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang, Allison, you're so cool. I really appreciate your time and energy. And I hope we can book part 2, because I really want to go into, Dante touched on this in our studies at James Joyce, that the eye is space and the ear is time. But then the Incas regarded time and space as a single concept, pancha. So, I mean, it's endless where we can go, the difference between art and science. Thank you so much for your time and energy, and I can't wait for part 2. Thank you so much. I'm going to hit the end broadcast button now, but I hope this never ends, and we can keep talking forever and ever.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Allison.